Hey, good morning. Wow, it's the second from the last day of the year. I'm Tony Shaffer, your host. And man, oh man, it's been quite a year. And I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here because it's been so chaotic because of a guy named Joe Biden. But someone who is not chaotic, who's a good friend and a partner and colleague, is Chris Cordani. Chris, good morning. Well, I think Chris is coming. Maybe
Yes,
he's
good
coming.
morning. How about that? Another more
Maybe,
chaotic on
maybe
this
there,
side.
maybe there is chaos with Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing? I'm just,
Hey, I
I'm
can't
just.
hear you.
No, oh
Your
no, you
voice is
can't
on
hear me.
mute.
That's not good. You should be able to hear me now. How about that?
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
I still can't hear you.
One, two,
Uh-oh.
three. I hope the
No,
Patriots.
I was just talking to Chris. Chris and I were just
Yes.
speaking, so I don't know what happened to Chris.
Okay, I'm going to see if the Patriots can hear me so I can figure out what's going on here. Otherwise,
We'll see
we'll
if we can
work
get
this
everything else up
all
and going
out.
here. It's chaos, folks. This is not like Dave Letterman, you know.
No.
I don't have
By
a
the
staff. I don't have Paul Schaefer in the band. So hold on a second here.
yes. And and I'm asking the Patriots if they can hear me. I'm not sure if they can. So we'll see what the deal is there. Nope, they say they can hear me. Everybody can hear me. Well, that's interesting. So that's funny. Anyway, and you were just talking to me. By the way, I want to say,
Well, can you hear me at all? I know that folks can say we can all hear you.
okay,
Good morning.
I can hear you pretty good. Yes, I can hear everything. By the way, Denise, I marked you down as Deborah, but Denise, yes, Up the Academy was great, wasn't it? I see you saw that. Awesome movie. Anyway, we're hoping that Tony can get to us. But I think we can all hear Tony. So we're going to try to figure this one out, right? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now, Tony, can you hear us? Okay. We're going to work that out.
Chris, I can't hear it. Maybe it's me now. I don't know what's going on. Hold on a second.
Yep. It says people can hear me, which is interesting here. All right, we're going to work this out. Yep. Now, actually, I'm understanding that everybody can hear both of us.
I can hear you now. Okay, it's coming through. I don't know what happened.
Oh, 1, 2, 3. These stupid headphones. That's what's happening here. That's why I wear them.
There we go. All right, there we go.
Ears.
Well, I could hear you guys could hear me. I couldn't hear you guys. Something happened because Chris and I were talking before.
Yeah.
Before it all happened. Anyway, we're back.
Well, that was just
so.
weird.
Chris, you're not chaotic like Joe Biden, are you? I hope not.
I'm not chaotic like Joe Biden. I'm not. I might be a little senile like Joe Biden, but a couple of ice cream pops, I'm good. Maybe a Nutty Buddy or two, I'm happy. And you know why?
Don't say Nutty Buddy, and you can't say Nutty Buddy and then have Hunter Biden.
Oh yeah,
talk about in the show. That's
good
against
point.
FCC regulations, by the way. Anyway,
but Mojo Nixon said Elvis is in Nutty Buddies, so they aren't so bad.
Okay, well, you have your Nutty Buddy, and I'll have my my what are those called? Ding dongs, right? You can have ding dongs.
Oh, Opus's favorite, right? Hostess Ding Dongs. Those were good until they were changed to the name King Dons for some reason.
Yeah, I don't. You got me on that one. I have no idea. But speaking of people who are not king dongs or ding dongs, is Mark Mitchell will be joining us. I just texted with Mark. He is coming.
Oh, excellent.
Shortly from the Rasmussen reports, the guys who got it right regarding polling the last go around. We'll be talking about kind of end of year issues with him. It'll be fun. And then, Chris, what else are we talking about today? You sent me a note. I read through it. I can't remember everything. We're going to be talking about Joe Biden and his meetings with Hunter, and what else are we going to be doing?
Did I bore you that much in these emails? Well, let's try something a little different than even what was on the list. You remember how Joe Biden was talking about that constitution for the people and by the people that were going to be made now by the Syrians because Al-Qaeda light took over. Well, in the true spirit of the deep state and friends of Joe Biden, it looks like this Jelani character, who is now in charge of Syria for the moment, at least at this point, says it'll take 4 years to hold elections.
Yeah. You know, Jalali sounds like a ice cream type, like a type of lime ice cream.
And I think Bill Cosby is going to be selling Jalali pudding.
That's right. That's right. It knocks you out for 4 years while you're waiting for elections.
Oh, hey-yo.
You just take a nap, sweetie. Don't worry about a thing. Old Uncle Bill's here to take care of you. Bill Cosby and Bill Clinton Now there's a sick prayer for you.
Yeah,
Man, oh man.
that's a
Woo!
oh. So I want to get your thoughts on this little controversy that the left is trying to create
All
over
right. I'm
a
listening.
discussion about the H-1B immigration visas.
Not the H21 virus where they want to give you a shot.
Well, that's another one. That's another thing they're
A
trying
lot
to
of
create.
H's in the news this weekend, I guess.
Right? Yeah, they're trying to slip things past us. But you know what? We're patriots, and we're fairly intelligent here, at
Yeah.
least well, by human standards. Keep that in mind. And
Yeah.
we don't let these things get past us. But the idea is this H-1B situation. We understand that there's a faction that says we need the best and the brightest here, which is something Donald Trump has said in the past. We also have a faction that says we shouldn't be taking too many American jobs away.
Right.
That's right, and that's correct too. So you have your Loomers and Bannons. So the Loomer and Bannon are leading saying this: we shouldn't have H-1B. This has to end. Well, on the other side, you have Ramaswamy and Musk saying, well, we need it. Musk is softening up a little bit on it, but check this out. The idea is that we do need the best and brightest. And Vivek Ramaswamy said it the best. He said, this is a nation that's been dumbed down. Oh, actually, all right, I've said that. But he said it's a nation that worships the dumbasses over the smart people. It doesn't encourage you to be more of a screech, but it pushes Zach forward. I get that. Zach was annoying. I guess if you're 90s kids, you might remember that, or 90s teens or something like that, or 90s college
Oh,
students, 80s teens.
that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. I'll trust
But,
you. I'll
but
trust what you do.
right. And our information, we push pop stars. We package pop stars and push them in front of society, but we don't bring forth people who actually do things, the successful people. And that's something look how the campaign was run. The presidential campaign was run. It wasn't about Kamala
Well,
Harris's record as a prosecutor or anything else like that. It was about her being packaged like a pop star and being brat. That's the dumbing
well,
down of
we'll
America
talk
in
about that when
progress.
Mark gets here. I want to talk about the pop star issue with Mark. So
Right,
absolutely. Yes.
right.
Right.
But that's the thing. I get that. But on the other hand, you can't take all the jobs from Americans and bring in indentured servants, if you will, at lower wages who can switch and move around companies that way. That's another issue. There has to be a medium between the two.
Chris, aren't you afraid that we'll bring in some highly talented person from, say, Slovenia and replace you on the show?
Let's see if I can do this. Hey, oh, I can do that accent.
Well, you can't do it in Czech. So,
Hey,
you can't.
Olovich.
I know that.
There you go. Hey, Olovich.
Well, no, I have no problem with reasonable immigration. I've talked about this before. For those who do know, I'll bring it up again. New Zealand. I spent some time in New Zealand before that crazy loon turned it
Yeah.
into, Austria in 1939. Just saying, she was a bit of a, I don't know. Can I say Nazi? I guess I can say Nazi. Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I was there back in the early 2000s, 2001 to be exact. And it's a beautiful country. You've got beaches and mountains, all kind of within a day's flight or drive, really. And to go to New Zealand to be an immigrant, you have to have three things: a skill, an ability to use the skill, like you have to be able to prove that you've had a history doing it, and money. You got and in addition to the skill and money, they got a need to have you like, we're all full of plumbers right now. Come back next week. They want you to be able to do something to basically benefit their society. So I have no problem with the idea of having some folks come here
Right.
with wicked skills, good skills, who can actually pull their own weight and do something. So what do you say? What do you think?
Well, I agree with that. The other thing is on the other side of that coin, we don't want to have people coming here and taking over at lower wages jobs that could be handled by Americans. Now,
Right.
again,
Oh, of course.
and this should have a medium somewhere because we do want
Yeah.
the best and brightest. We do want to encourage other nations' doctors and people coming because
Yeah.
we
Let
have
me
we lost a couple of generations. We've been dumbed down pretty heavily here, and we need some help at this point. But we also have to in turn raise our education system and the expectations of people, not send people out to in the world with gender studies degrees and lesbian studies degrees or whatever.
Well, lesbian studies, I can get behind that, so to speak. Just saying.
Yeah, but it's not a 4-year degree.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
You
Just
must be a
I've already
doctorate in that.
I've got hard degrees already. I've got my environmental studies and political
Right.
science. I've used those.
Right.
maybe it's time I pick up a new degree. Maybe I should go study lesbians.
Well,
Let's ask the folks in the chat. Is that what I should do for the next 4 years instead of trying to support President Trump? Go study lesbians.
well,
Is that a good role?
you're going to have to take you got to take at least 3 courses of tennis 101, tennis 102, and
Study
tennis, yeah, and the groan, because
the wear of
when you
Birkenstocks
serve, you have
101.
to groan. Right. There you go.
That's right. The wear of Birkenstocks, and then I have to get into golfing, women's pro golfing and women's pro basketball. So both
women's
good
pro
sports.
basketball.
I'm not demoting that. It's like that, it's cool.
Oh,
So
and I'm sorry, it's bad. Women's pro basketball has been bad, and it's been carried by the NBA for far too long. It's kind of it was until this year. It's been kind of a parasite. It was fun to watch the first couple of years, but then, or the first maybe 5 years, but then it kind of lost its luster. And now the 2 most famous ones, the one is that one girl, that leading scorer and that's fine. She's nice to watch. But the other one was the chick that got busted in Russia for pot use.
yeah.
That's the other.
Oh yeah, Griner.
Right.
Griner. I don't know if she's a girl. See, that's what I'd study. It's like, is this really a girl? It's like
She plays
lesbians,
like one.
really real or fake? That would be one of the top. What? That'd be like lesbians 201. Who are the real lesbians and who are guys pretending to be lesbians? I think that's a great topic. And
I agree.
yeah, and Denise 15 said I should take out student loans, which is like, yeah, I know I can get them forgiven. Of course. Why not? Why live it? I'll live it up. I'll get like what, 2 million, 3 million in loans. I can take study. I'll tell you what, I'll go to The Hague and the Netherlands and study lesbians. And then I'll go to Bora Bora. And then maybe I'll go to Greenland to see if we want to both buy Greenland and study lesbians. This is like a potpourri of travel and education. Wouldn't that be
That's
great?
right. And native studies, because you're going to Greenland. Well, you
got to go where the natives are naked too. Just saying.
Right. They could soon be part of America anyway, so you should be exploring that early. That's right.
So I could be like Vasco da Gama in Canada. I could go up there and chart things out, right? For our new 50. I don't think they can be our 51st state. I think you got to you got to do 4 states or 5. I think I say give Quebec to the French. Let it go back. Like, you go back to France. The rest
Well, they've been trying that for a long time. But keep in mind, they're anti-Trudeau over there in a lot of ways, except for the major cities. They don't want any part of this liberal garbage. That's one of the reasons they want to leave the nation. The other one is because they speak a different language.
So why don't we do a win-win? Win-win-win. So let's this. How about this? And I'll call President Trump's team and propose it. Let's take in the 4 provinces except for Quebec. We'll let Quebec go to the French, and they can be horse-eating surrender monkeys with the French. How about that? That's a good solution. And then we'll send Trudeau north. We'll give him his own little ice station zebra, and he becomes de facto Santa Claus. How about that? He gets to be like the king of the world, on top of the world. What do you think?
Well, the problem is he'll be going to kids' houses and taking toys from them. So he'd be the opposite of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He'd be Trudeau
like
Claus.
The Grinch.
Yeah,
well, he would look good green. I think he'd look good green.
That's right. So did you hear, before we get to our guest pretty soon, did you hear about what happened on CNN with I guess it was I don't remember where it was, but
Scott Jennings.
Yep, Scott Jennings.
I did see what happened with Scott Jennings. Yes.
Yeah, well, and it was funny because he just called out this woman for trying to.
I know her, by the way. I used to be on TV with her in the old days on MSNBC. Just saying, I know her personally.
Yeah, she was trying to create a nice legacy for Joe Biden, but he wasn't having any of it. So let's check it out.
Oh, let's do it.
Ah, darn it. I don't like the fact that they do this on the, so bear with me on this because I thought I passed this silly, there we go.
Are we sure Scott was
Here we go.
the criminal felon that had the secret documents that he was holding in his bathroom in Mar-a-Lago? Because there was
the wrong one as well. This is actually the wrong video.
Are you comfortable, Jamal? Are you comfortable with Hunter Biden running White House senior staff meetings? Do you think this is good?
Well, it's
listen.
Come on.
Why are you yelling at me?
I'm asking you. We're talking about Joe Biden. We're talking
Something's
about Joe
wrong
Biden
here
tonight, who is admitting to his own donors, people in your party.
Well, let's take it off. Let's go back to the folks.
Yeah, we're gonna.
The close-ups aren't helping.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not doing it at all. Here's what happened. I do not like using the Daily Mail stuff because a lot of times they skip ahead and the ads kind of run around.
They
So
do. Yeah,
bas-
they do. They do.
basically, yeah, basically what happened was this woman was talking about how he freed so many people,
She's
and
a
Jenny said, "Wait,
Democrat. She's a
right?"
Democrat.
And Jenny's saying, "Wait a minute, hold on a second. He freed a few
Her
people.
name
There's
is
still
Karen, by the way.
hundreds."
Her name is
Right,
Karen.
right, Karen, of course.
Just saying.
But
Just
the
saying.
idea is the left is trying very hard to create a legacy for Joe Biden. Of course, now they have to kind of create one for Jimmy Carter at this point, but that's another story.
Well, I'll acknowledge. I'm wearing my Reagan in 1980 shirt in honor of Jimmy Carter. It's my way of saying, "Hey, you lost. That's okay. It's a good thing." And Reagan 1980, I acknowledge President Carter passed at 100 years old. I'm not a fan. I don't want to give all this glowing. Oh, he's such a. I think he had a good heart. I think he tried hard. I think he had some ideas which were fundamentally flawed because Democrats, and he went back to Plains and tried to make the most of his life after. And so I admire the fact that he did not become a bomb thrower. He did not try to be the shadow master of the Democrat Party like certain Obamas we know.
Oh yes.
So I acknowledge Jimmy Carter and his legacy. God rest his soul if he had one.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter had a couple of good points, but remember, the gas prices were very high under him. You're talking about $2 back then a gallon. That's a lot
Yeah.
like the prices.
Yeah,
we saw
Deborah
under
Lynn said it
Obama.
well.
Right.
Carter was a good man and a bad president. I agree with
Yes,
that.
that's what I agree with because the man did.
I agree.
Again, he screwed up a lot in the Middle East. He destroyed. He was terrible. Yes, I know, but it was. I know the whole thing about Israel and Egypt and all that, but that was more his underlings doing that kind of work. The idea here is what was it? Uh, uh, I also like the fact I didn't like the fact that Jimmy Carter lowered the. I was a kid then, but it was annoying to a lot of people. He
Yeah.
lowered the national speed limit to 55, and under the guise of saying this will save you gas and this will save you this or that.
Yeah.
It was
Let's
annoying.
let's go
It's
through
basically
some of that. Yeah.
it's
So
basically one of
that
those
was
where he was telling
insane.
people what to do, right? Under the guise of climate change.
So I was a kid then too. I remember once going from San Antonio, Texas to a little place called Cherryville, Kansas on a Greyhound bus, having to go 55. It sucked. It was horrible. And oh, by the way, it didn't save any gas. When vehicles were designed to basically get the best gas mileage, about 60, 65. And the idea that, oh, we're going to lower it down and make everything more efficient was insane. And then also, he surrounded himself with neocons. Zbigniew Brzezinski, Mika's dad, by the way,
Yes.
had the most horrible incident. Imagine Joe Biden's staff with the Joe Biden staff youth combined with the evil of Hank Kissinger. That's Zbigniew Brzezinski. Yeah,
Yes.
I can't drive 55.
At least it spawned a hit song. That's basically it. But
Yeah.
a good thing about Carter's presidency is that he pissed off Ted Kennedy so much that Ted wouldn't let him do a lot of things he wanted to do, which includes that whole one single payer universal health care. So Ted Kennedy had his shot with Jimmy Carter to actually pull this off, but his ego was so massive he didn't want to let Jimmy Carter do this because look, he was a deep stater. Jimmy Carter had to be eased into that kind of bend, if you will.
Yeah.
But this is why, and of course, it pissed off Ted Kennedy so much that he decided to add John Anderson to the fray in 1980 during the presidential election, which helped Reagan
Right.
and, of course, helped America in that respect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had no problem with that.
that's right. So the old captain of the swim team screwed up the country or screwed himself over during the during the Carter era. So that's not so bad.
Yeah. One little note. I see folks talking about Catherine Herridge in the chat. I'm going to ask Catherine again to come on. She's had some issues regarding her personal life I don't want to get into. We are friends, so I've been respectful of her needing to take care of a couple things regarding her family. But I will ask her to come back on. All right, back to the 80s.
Yes.
So Jimmy Carter, I think he had some real. So I remember as a kid, the Malay speech. Jimmy Carter was sitting next to the fireplace in his sweater. Remember the cardigan sweater? And my fellow Americans, you just need to get used to being miserable. It's like,
Yes.
okay, I don't think that was the best move the Democrats ever made. I mean, he may have a good heart, but that was just stupid. It's like, huh? Why? Why do we have to get used to being miserable? And that was, I think, the wrong message. Very wrong message.
But it's not unlike what the Democrats have been telling us the last, I'd say, what's it, 24? So I'd say that since 2008. They're basically saying, look, when Barack Obama said to Americans, the days of 3% GDP growth are over, it meant our policies are going to stay intact. You're going to go towards a one world government. The only way to do that is to stunt the growth and stunt the progress of the developed nations. And that's something that Jimmy Carter was probably on board with, even before the King Charles and George H.W. Bush announcements about the New World Order.
Yes, New World Order, and that's what Zbigniew Brzezinski started.
Exactly, and he was.
I'm texting Catherine right now. I promised. I'll see what she's up to.
Good. Then I'll yap before we bring in Mark, and this is where even Jimmy Carter, who was again the gentleman farmer, if you will, as he came in, he was perceived as the outsider. The only reason he really won the election in 1976, in my opinion, is that Gerald Ford was stuck with the Nixon stink. It wasn't going to be easy for him. It just wasn't going to happen. And
Jerry Ford just wasn't, I don't think, dynamic. He just wasn't dynamic. I think Chevy Chase went a little bit too far. He did a great job. Everybody thinks of Jerry Ford and Chevy Chase now. But I'm just saying.
Jerry Ford was the right man for that time to do the right thing. He took one for the team. He took one for America. And he said, look, you can't sit there and throw this guy in jail. I'm going to pardon him. And that's it.
Well, we're going to talk about that with our next guest a little bit about what would happen with certain things happening.
Right. It's not like he's pardoning it's not like he's pardoning child killers or anything like that. But again, that's the legacy of one Joseph Biden. I don't think it's awful.
Biden's on track right now to have the maximum number of pardons and commutations of any president. I think he's already surpassed. I think he has abused that privilege more than any other president.
Right. And not only that,
I don't think we should be surprised, but
right. And he's going to continue to do so because he's been listening to woke activists since he got into office. Remember?
No. He's not listening to anybody. Someone else is doing it. I think if you walked up to Joe Biden right now and said, Joe, I have a new Depends for you in the back of my truck. Would you come with me? He'd say yes. Because he doesn't know any better.
And even if it's a white windowless van, I get that. But you also know that Joe Biden and Barack Obama came into their offices, came into the presidency owing a hell of a lot of people. They owed a hell of a lot of people. And it was all payback. And that's what they're doing.
Well, that's another thing I want to talk to Mark about is the payback, so to speak. All the celebrity glitz. There. Good. Hey, there he is. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Mark.
Morning. Good to
Happy Christmas or Merry Christmas and near New Year.
We had a great Christmas, but my entire family is fighting through an illness I brought back from Camp Fest. Yeah.
I got something at the Army Navy game and I'm still fighting it. It's been weeks now where I have to just stop. So don't feel bad if you have to stop and blow your nose because I just had to take a nose blowing break myself. So anyway, welcome to the show. We have a lot to talk about here. So of course, shout out to you and X. I catch your videos. I watch your videos, and I enjoy them. And there's several things we want you to help walk us through today. I've noted, and one of the things I'm going back and doing right now is I'm watching all the different shows, the coverage of the election night. And man, oh man, it's entertaining. Seeing all these people on the left like melt down. Oh, well, I was supposed to go blue. Oh, and it's great. It is. It's wonderful. It's like, oh my, I sit there and smoke a cigar. It's like, oh, this is entertaining. And so you weren't fooled. And I like the way you've basically been very sedate, but very pointed about, hey, and I think you even said in one of your videos, like, I thought I was crazy because my numbers were different than theirs at one point. Didn't you say something about like that? Yeah. It's like, what, am I not seeing something?
July and August was a very tough time. Absolutely a tough time, because it's fine that everybody came back in like late October, November. In fact, I think a lot of them were copying my numbers, but the prevailing narrative at the end of the summer was that Kamala Harris was the absolute shoo-in to win. She had the best DNC there ever was. Thank God they got Biden out. He never would have been able to get over the finish line. And I had sleepless nights because, we're talking about Reuters with Harris +6, and I'm putting out a Trump +2 or 3. And I'll tell you what, I think I would have been alone too, except for those New York Times people. They put out a Trump +1 the same week I put out a Trump +2, and that's when I knew. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, they're all lying. I knew it immediately.
So this is we've talked about this, but I want to hear it again. And the folks are wishing you well in the chat, by the way, Mark. They're saying they hope you get
I
better.
must sound horrible.
Well, I
Sound better
sound
than me.
horrible too. Don't worry about. I mean, they're all very friendly. They're all very friendly. They're good folks. The good patriots. We love them. But my point to you is, it's very lonely when you're out there on your own. Trust me, I've done the same thing in intelligence. Like, why is nobody else seeing this? It's like, am I wrong? And no. I think sometimes you have to have the courage of your convictions, and thank God you did. But the other thing I was going to bring up is that when you're out there like that, you're actually they call you then, and I'm going to say this as politely as I can. They call you an extreme conservative. Like you're an extremist. Like, I'm just running with the numbers. And it seems to me that the Overton's window of what a conservative is now anybody who disagrees with the collective thinking is considered extreme. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of things are being redefined right now, even the term conservatism.
Yeah.
I guess I would call myself a conservative now. I don't know how to define it. I listen to what people say and try to arrive at a rational conclusion based on my lived realities. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want my country to be torn down. Like, that's big on the list. And what's crazy is on November 5th, in my opinion, it was revealed very rapidly that the prevailing narrative on Twitter is conservative. Now, you can talk about party ID, whether it's Republican or Democrat, but the conversations I'm seeing right now are very rational, dialogue-based arguments over the merits of things. There's some name calling too, but
not much.
Yeah.
Not as much as the old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, I even this is something I just noticed. Christopher Lloyd came back to Twitter. The actor. And what's funny is a lot of our friends. I have a few rock and roll and Hollywood friends. You guys will be surprised about some of them. We wish each other well, and you'd be surprised because you would never consider these people conservative. But like you, Mark, they've recognized the damage to our society, and so now they kind of they. I don't know if they can walk up and say they're conservative. There he is. There's
Jim
Jim,
Ignatowski, the Reverend, the good Reverend.
The good Reverend. So people like Christopher Lloyd and others. I'm not saying he's conservative. I'm saying some of these people, like Kirstie Alley. Kirstie Alley, before she passed, Kirstie and I were friends, and I don't know if she ever really considered herself conservative. She just considered herself someone who recognized America was being damaged. And I text with people like that all the time, and it's like that's the common thread here. It's like we just love our country. We want to see the protection of children from abuse. We want to see people economically. We're just talking about, Mark, the Malaise speech, the Jimmy Carter Malaise speech before you joined us, about having the attitude of gratitude and prosperity, not giving into this idea that everything is gloom and doom. So how did you deal with that? Since you were clearly the brunt of let me change the wording. You were at the cutting edge of reality. When did you recognize that you were really right and they were wrong? Besides the New York Times, probably. What else did you recognize that gave you kind of the wind in your sail to get through?
I mean, we knew the entire time. We polled on Biden versus Trump almost the entire term, fall of 2021. And so I watched the entire movement. I watched independents shift to Trump 20 points. And so I went into this election season thinking, well, Trump is the absolute favorite to win. And there's probably very little they can do to prevent that because it's a referendum on prices, on Bidenomics, on the weaponization of the judicial system. There's not a lot that Kamala Harris can do to fix that. There just isn't. And of course, I think I had a video in June or July where I came on and said, well, she's probably going to narrow the race about 2 points and maybe 3. It'll happen during the DNC and into the fall. and then it'll just sit there because Donald Trump's got his 49%. They're not going anywhere. And that's exactly what happened. Some of the elections are a lot harder to predict than others, especially 2020 with all those mail-in ballots flying around. The writing was on the wall. In fact, I'm surprised that Trump didn't win by more than what he did. And I think maybe in retrospect, we will find out that he won by more.
Oh, I think so.
Than what he did. But
so let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing some interesting work on some of the work I did. We discussed via chat certain things happening. I did the investigation of Jesse Morgan, the pallet of ballots guy. They basically, to make a summary for the folks who are here. According to Jesse Morgan, which I'll just cut to the chase, my investigation validated his claim. That is to say that through the preponderance of the evidence of what we did, and I'll talk about that in a second, Jesse Morgan did move in October, a full 30 days before the election of 2020, moved from Bethpage, New York, a bulk mail facility to another bulk mail facility in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, approximately, we believe, between 640 to 880,000 curated votes in these nice trays, all in ballards, and these nice ballards, pallets, basically ballards are pallets in a 53-foot contract mail truck. We believe that. I believe that. And I believe there were at least 4 of those trucks. And these were artifacts to dump into the system on election night to create a perception that Trump had lost Pennsylvania to Biden. So that's the beginning. So I did an investigation. Mark, I don't know if you knew this. We had a red team. We brought in former members of the Postal Service, postmasters. They created the system for us. We validated it. We said, hey, this is what this guy's saying. Is it possible? And he looked at us like, yeah, it's very possible. But this was what had to happen. And they told us what to look for. And we went and looked and we found it. So my point to you, my friend, I think the 2020 thing needs to be relooked. What do you think?
It's still within the statute of limitations. And it was such a scar on the psyche of America because we got up to 2/3 of people thinking the outcome of elections are stolen in this country. It's not going to get swept under the rug. I think you have 2 categories of things. You have one, which is, let's just say, like what I see out in California, where they count for 4 weeks and miraculously all of these Republican seats flip Democrat. And there's a lot of questions when you look at, well, over the last, Joe Hoff did this work. When you look at the last 10 or 15 years, the number of foreign-born voter registrants vastly outstrips the number of naturalized citizens in California. So where are those people coming from? Well, some of them are moving in. Some of them are H-1Bs. Some of them are legal immigrants that are getting motor voter registrations and voting in federal elections. And it's probably not a small amount. So that's something that they're going to have to look at. There's a lot of things like that that are going to take time, that need the full weight of a federal investigation. And then you have things like this postal truck, which could easily be answered with one question. This isn't the situation where, the big lie, no court has heard the proof. No human has heard the answer. Like, who paid for the trucks? Right now, the Postal Service is stonewalling. Under Trump, they should not. And if they do, they should feel the full force of the executive branch coming down on them, because that single answer, like literally one word, like who's the name that paid for those trucks, the voters deserve to know, because they fund the Postal Service to the tune of what? I don't know, $100 billion a year or something like that.
So this is the theory of the crime. I need to be careful here because some of the details I'm about to talk about have not been revealed, and there'll be predicates for the investigation to continue. So we believe, Mark, there were 2 companies. So remember, Jesse Morgan was an employee, a contract employee, because his company was contracted. So we believe, this is the theory of the crime, that they were kind of paid under the table to basically be allowed to use the postal system to hide the entire thing. And by the way, I think they figured out how to do this in a number of places, to include Wisconsin and Michigan. And so if we look at the pattern, we need to learn the pattern. I know you were a Navy guy, but I was an Army intel guy. So what we learned as young lieutenants was intelligence preparation of the battle space. What we learned, Mark, is that if you take 5 random events and you understand a matrix like this, in a matrix that functions, those 5 events are linked to these other things, you start to see a mosaic develop. So I believe we should look at the Jesse Morgan, the thing you guys are looking at, as a mosaic, and start looking at how that pattern emerges, and then see if there's other places that pattern was applied as well. Because I think we're going to find that this is not the only place they do it. And I think that's going to be important. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about the 19 different kinds of paper of ballot stock printed by Runbeck and Hatters. Let's just go look at the paper. It still exists. Why can't we see it?
Yeah.
So again, a list, a big list of very simple things that we should be able to look at. We should be able to understand. We should be able to touch those ballots in Lock and Key in Fulton and Georgia. Why hasn't anybody been able to look at those yet?
Well, the problem is here, though. You're going to look at a political end to this. I believe you guys are right on this whole thing. There was a lot of legal cheating and ground game going on here because of the rule changes. If it's looked into, whether the outcome is legit or not, depending on the rules, there are going to be a lot of things the left aren't going to like to see or hear. And that will probably push a huge amount of them into a collective meltdown, destroying cities once again, destroying neighborhood once again. And I believe that is where a lot of people on the right and center right don't want to see some of these. So remember, there's going to be some pushback either way. We want to see the truth. But the fact is, there are so many people that don't want to see the truth that they could cause some major problems for us for the next after the results are shown, and that's another issue. Even Richard M. Nixon, was it 1960, said that he wouldn't question Richard Daley's mysterious 50,000 votes because he didn't want to divide the country.
Well, I think both sides look. I was once told by one of the senior advisors to the Senate, to what's his name, Turtleface, Mitch McConnell. That both sides do it. So I think no, they do. But in this case, it was like an order of magnitude more. Mark, I want to ask that question of you regarding the issue of reliability, because a lot of people feel the numbers were there for Trump in 2020. I mean, I was there. I witnessed this myself. How quickly do you think Trump should jump into this? Now, I'm going to full disclosure. I have talked to folks on the inbound Trump team about this issue. So I don't know how quick they're going to pick it up. I think they're going to pick it up pretty quick. So how quick do you think they had to jump into this? Do you think they're going to be shenanigans trying to destroy evidence?
Well, I want to hear your opinion too. I've talked to people as well who have been talking to the Trump people who have implied that there is an effort being put together to go after this stuff. I don't know who's going to be involved. I don't know how big it is. I don't know how fast it's going to happen. I will just step back and take a look from a public opinion perspective. One of the things I've been tracking since the election is right direction, wrong track. And often what happens is when there's like a major political victory or something major changes, then you'll see a shift in those numbers for like Republicans got a really big win. But what's interesting is that right direction for them hasn't gone up that much. And the right direction for Democrats really hasn't gone down that high. I mean, they were at about 50%. They're down to about 31, 32. Republicans only went from like mid-20s up to 37 right now. And so and independents didn't change at all. So there's this aspect of wait and see coming into this election where I think people are just like expecting some form of validation on January 21st that Trump is going to do what he said, and that there's some like level up from the previous like 2016 chaos. It was chaos, and he did get a lot of what he said he was going to do done despite that chaos. But we'll see, and whether it's election integrity, whether it's JFK document disclosure, whether it's firing the entire FBI building on day one and making it a museum, like some of the stuff is going to become due and payable on January 21st. And I can't wait to see what that is, because I think it's going to inform public opinion for the next, year of his term. Like he came into office and took these major actions. Everybody focuses on 100 days. I think this is the time we're going to be focusing on day one.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the point. It's like, man, they've been trying to get through suits and countersuits documents relating to Fani Willis. Fanny or Fani? Are you a Fanny person or a Fani person, Mark? No, don't say that. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I don't even care.
I'm a more of a Bruce Willis person.
Yeah.
But
There you go.
Willis trying to get into the documents relating to New York and that whole prosecution. Obviously, the whole not a real boy, to quote our friend over Gouveia, Robert Gouveia, the not a real boy prosecution. What's his name? Jack Smith.
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot. It's all going to be Trump's domain. It's like it's going to be his DOJ. It's like, hey, he can just go rifle through stuff. So it'll be good. So let's continue the conversation here, Mark. Next thing I wanted to touch on was I think we'll obviously stay in touch because we share this as a topic of interest from different perspectives, but the same desire to have resolution. So we'll track this for the folks going into the new year. Yeah, Jack Smith, TSM Money says Jack Smith is not a real boy, as Robert Gouveia always says. He's not a real good boy. I love Robert. Shout out to Robert.
I've seen his nose grow. So
Did you see that Wall Street Journal article? It's incredible.
No. Would you tell us about it?
This is my point, is that we've seen violent reactions. We've seen protests sweep the country for a lot less than what's happened in the last month or two. What we're talking about here is potentially the systematic dismantling of the entire establishment money-making machine in Washington, D.C. And so far, it's been crickets. And then you hear articles like this. Some Justice Department lawyers look for protection and the exits. Officials who worked on politically sensitive cases weigh moves ahead of Donald Trump's second term.
Yeah.
It's all about the inner jockeying, the tiers, the resumes that are getting put out to major law firms across the country, how they're like lawyering up and seeking protection and crying to all of their bosses. It's absolutely delicious. But I mean, you haven't heard articles like this, like when W took over for Bill Clinton, it didn't happen. This has got to be a first. They weren't doing this.
This is where I wanted to go anyway. Yeah, I know. So this is where this idea of preemptive pardons comes in. Now, the other thing I've been watching, you probably know a guy by the name of what was his name? He's the Clinton guy. Oh my goodness, he does Democrat Docket is his podcast. Mark Elias. Elias.
Oh,
Satan's right testicle. That's his nickname, by the way.
Yeah, we know that, man.
No, I'm just joking.
Very well.
I'm joking. But anyway, so Mark Elias has, yes, I'll do Paul in a second, so to speak. The issue that I have is, and I've seen him debate this, like, well, why would anybody need a pardon? But well, maybe we should take him. So there he is. He looks like Dr. Bunsen Honeydew after he's had one too many trips on acid. You know,
he's been hanging with Jake Sullivan, then, hasn't he?
He's been hanging with Jake Sullivan, man. I mean. So, by the way, do you think that Bill Clinton and Bill Cosby could make a good TV series? No. I'm diverting myself. I shouldn't talk about it. Anyway. I see Democrats like, oh, Bill Clinton, Bill Cosby. That's a TV series in the making. Anyway,
slick.
So back to the topic. Quit distracting me, Chris. Quit getting me off. Quit getting me off topic. Anyway, so let me ask you. So, what do you make of, Mark, the idea of preemptive pardons? Just tell us your opinion, because I'm just curious about what people think of this.
I mean, it's just ugly. We hold on it. To be honest with you, to me, it's more of a scandal about how unscandalous it is. To be honest, when you see somebody from DC clutch their pearls about some new precedents have been set, the voters don't understand or care. And also, I think from an optics perspective, pretty much everybody's been converted on Joe Biden. I mean, like over 60% of them think that he profited from companies in China. Over half of them think that he committed impeachable offenses while in office. So you're not going to like change that number. You just got 30 or 40% of people who are dug in and totally trust the guy no matter what he does. And that's sick because it gives them cover. It gives them cover to do stuff like this because they're not going to get called out by their own side. And I'll tell you, in the past, they would have hesitated to do it because it would have given their internal adversaries political attacks, weapons, but like we saw Amy Klobuchar 2 or 3 weeks ago come out and speak ill of the preemptive pardon of Hunter Biden, and nobody cared. Like, she was trying to do that to use the most safe attack possible to gain some kind of political leg up, and I don't think it got her anything at all. So their machine's just going to keep on doing what their machine does, which is spend a lot of money on celebrities and lose right now.
I want to hit, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of my points I wanted to bring up. Before I get to celebrities, let me ask you a question based on what you just said. So do you think Trump could go hook and claw after these people and be supported? Because so far the numbers seem to be bearing up his choices. People seem to like what he's doing. Do you think he could like go an order of magnitude harder at these people to go after their wrongdoing?
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. I think 90% of DC is corrupt. I mean, I think
I live there. Yes, they are.
No,
yes,
I know.
They
One
are.
of those like military tribunals, like let's open up another wing in
Well, I don't know about
Guantanamo.
that. But I mean,
well, I'm just saying, like, if you really wanted to, I like justice. I think that American voters deserve justice.
I do too.
I think the idea is, they're all really supportive of that from a public opinion perspective. And they have a very dim view of their elected leaders. They know that they go down there and aren't representing their best interests. And I think it's pretty safe to assume why that is. And so I honestly haven't polled on it. I think we should. But if you put a program like that out there, I think it would be pretty popular, because let's not forget that the political establishment was willing to throw half of America into jail for questioning the vaccines, which is their First Amendment right. That was only 2 years ago. So that's where we're at. And if I were Trump, I do think that aggressively pursuing people who obviously wronged is an important and positive thing for the country. I also think if he does it on day one, it'll send the wrong message and it will potentially hinder his agenda. So what I would do is take a very calculated approach where I come in and have some major like low hanging fruit wins, and then, trickle some stuff out. And to be honest with you, he needs to keep that perception of independence between the people that he appointed and, the agencies that they're running. And I think he's smart enough to do that. And there will be people that say, no matter what, well, Kash Patel, he's a Trump guy and he's just doing this out of political revenge. But the point is to maintain the cover for the American people, because I think he will be independent. I think Kash isn't a dumb guy. He knows where all the bodies are buried. And they should absolutely go after this. But, number one, like, let's kick out 100,000 criminal immigrants day one, right? That kind of thing. I think that's what we need to see first.
Well, I think we will. I think that's what to go. I'd like to believe they have a similar plan of what you're outlining for them. I think it's important to be to persevere, but and you probably saw the same article I did, Mark, over the last couple of days. I think the Independent actually had it that Joe Biden's two greatest sorrows. He regrets that he dropped out of the race, and he regrets he appointed. Appointed. What's his name? The Attorney General. Oh my God, I'm having a Joe Biden moment.
Of course, it's
Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland. Yes.
Yeah. So, Mark, I'm going to ask you a question here in a second. I have to do a read, but after I ask this question, after I do the read, I'm going to ask you this question. So, the question is, I'm going to get your answer after I read. Do you think that the Harris campaign misused funding by the fact they didn't have Oprah and Cardi B do a joint singing of WAP? Do you think they should have done it together? So anyway, but I digress. Let me get back. I got to read. Hold on. I got to read. I got to read Paul Stone's thing. Paul Stone is our friend who may fire me after that. That's okay. Paul Stone is your one-stop shop for gold and silver. Go check him out at Colonial Metals Group, colonialmetalsgroup.com/Ed-Henry, 800-805-4034. One of the notable features of our discussion today is to quote my friend Don Rumsfeld, we're talking about known unknowns. Well, there's other unknown unknowns and known unknowns and unknown knowns. Man, I can't make sense of what I just said, but you can call someone who can make sense of what I just said. Call Paul Stone. Call Paul and his folks. They can get you straight on what you can do to make sure that your future is a known, not a known unknown. Right, Chris? Put that thing
I don't know.
that they can scan it too. Do you have that available?
Yes, I do.
I don't know.
What do
you
the
better
polls say
know.
about that?
Because else for a bullet, we're all in trouble. I know we're in trouble. It's a matter of degree at this point. So anyway, 800-805. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way, pick up the phone. 800-805-4034. There it is. And literally, you cannot go wrong. You will go right regarding having your family protected by gold and silver. Gold and silver is literally the foundation of economic success of societies going back to the Egyptians. I mean, who wouldn't want to walk like an Egyptian, right, Chris? I watched that video over the weekend too.
Now, that was a classic,
right.
by the way.
It's like the Bengals got it.
The
They got
Bengals.
it. And they got it. You can get it. So 800-805-4034, colonialmetalsgroup.com/Ed-Henry. Check them out. You will thank us later. You'll thank us today if you do it. But we don't know what's coming. Do the right thing. So there you go. Back to Mark. So Mark, my point, I don't want you to answer that question because you'll get in trouble. But I think you get my point. It's like, do you think Trump's now talking about suing the Harris campaign for bribing all the celebrities? What do you think about it? Is that legal? And do you think he should?
Yeah, this comes down to, I think there's probably a lot of like campaign finance laws that might need to be looked into. Like, where was that money restricted in certain ways? Was it expected to go into certain funds, and what were they allowed to be used on? And I don't know. Like, she lost, to be honest with you. I think he should probably be magnanimous to Harris. She was given a losing hand, and I'm going to go out on a ledge here. People aren't going to like this. Yeah. I don't think she could have won, and I don't think she was the best candidate. But I think she did about as good of a job as you would expect any of the like moderately, likable people on the Democrat bench. I mean, like Joe Biden was going to lose in a landslide, absolutely, and the fact that it was as close as it was. Yeah, I mean, she got them almost within cheat distance. To be honest with you, I think that's true. What's wild to me though is that instead of spending the money in better ways, I think it is reasonable to expect that she had saturated almost any way she could have to spend money. They probably brought up like every useful positive ROA ad, buy they possibly could have. They probably opened every staff. They had the leaders to like open. I think they probably had all this money. They're like, well, we have to use it somehow. Why not to pad the pocket of all my buddies in California and get a little bit of a headline bounce? It's like one of those things. Well, we got the money. We might as well try it. Maybe it'll get us a few more votes. But what's wild is that she never moderated her message, not even once. I mean, she stole a couple of Trump's ideas. She did the tax on tips. But when she went into the debate, when she went on Fox News, she didn't really, like, you knew they were going to ask you about immigration. You're complicit. Voters know that you're complicit. Like, have a better answer. And she never did. And in my opinion, that's because she knew she was going to lose and she wanted to maintain her leftist bona fides, her street cred, because I think she wants to go back in California and be the governor or something like that, which is a race that she could win. And so when you put it that way, it's like, yeah, that's probably why they spent the money. Everybody was screaming at her probably to spend the money. And she's like, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll spend the money, and all these people will love me when the campaign's over.
Well, here's another perspective. Here's another perspective of this gentleman. I just want to throw this at both of you. The idea is the left, the Biden administration went after Donald Trump for supposed misuse of campaign funds when it came to that Stormy Daniels money. Okay. So the idea is they went all out to prosecute him. Well, I'll say persecute him for this just to stop him from running for president. It's a little bit of payback. This guy has the resources. He's saying, look, these guys do it too. We're going to prove it to you. You're not going to like what you're going to see. But at least this case, whether the decision goes his way or her way, or it doesn't affect anything at all, it will prove that she and the Democrats had misused funds and should be looked at later. And these campaigns down the road should also be more closely looked at.
Yeah, I agree. That's fair. And I think an investigation would find stuff. But again, I just said I think an investigation into any one of them would probably find stuff. I think Trump's got a very limited amount of political capital to spend on things like this. And I think he's got to weigh the upside here. is that if he's going to like go down there and bust heads, like bust some heads that matter, not this one.
Yeah.
In fact, it's
Yeah,
probably better for
I tend
Trump
to agree
if
with
she should actually stay at where she is right now, is the front runner for 2028. And that's absolutely hilarious. That's probably what you want if you're Trump, is to have a person you've already beaten be the front runner for the next election. So like, you should actually probably try and build her up.
That's a
She's kind of like a Democrat. She's kind of like a Democrat heat sink. She kind of sucks the air out of the room, so to speak. And that's probably not a bad thing. I get your point.
Well, she's
she spent $2 billion on name recognition, and Gavin Newsom doesn't have that. And so that's put her 10, 20, 30 points wherever ahead of Gavin Newsom. And I'm not saying that he'll be any better, but I'm just saying like the people that are going to try to unseat her, because they will, are going to have to get their hair mussed and roll up their sleeves. And it's probably going to be delicious to watch.
Yeah.
Well,
so I get your point. And I don't disagree. And I think that's a wise use of investigative time to let her kind of, but you know, the other thing too, Mark, we talked about this last time you were on a show. Trump was a master of organic media. Like he would do the garbage truck thing. I think him just announcing he's going to do lawsuits has the effect of punishing. The process is the punishment. What do you think? Just putting it out there is almost as good as doing it.
Yeah, I mean, like you have to actually have the investigation. You have to actually file the suit to get somebody to lawyer up. And I don't know. You know, I guess we'll see. I think probably the first thing we'll see is whether or not did they actually file the lawsuit yet on Ann Selzer?
Well,
I think that
that's why I brought that up, because I think they're going after Ann, which is, to me, that's one of you. So I'm not you. I mean, you don't wear a skirt.
No, it is.
But you're going after one of the people in your field. We get that, and that's something that probably shouldn't happen at this point. Look, she made a mistake. If she made a mistake, fine. But I believe that she, as a pollster, a career pollster, knew where to find the right votes to get the results she wanted. And looking at that 9% for Kamala Harris, you think an experienced pollster, if she was ready to be on the up and up, would say, well, you know what, maybe we should do this one over again.
Well, that's why I wanted to close off our conversation, because I know it's been an hour already. I don't know. The time goes fast. It really does. Because I'd love to continue to talk with you, Mark, because I love our conversation. But let me ask that, because we've now gone back to where, you know, we're back to talking about polls. We talked about this last time. I don't know her. I don't know her heart, but it's just peculiar that all of a sudden, a week before the election, she makes the left really go bonkers with this outlier. And as a matter of fact, I said, I've been watching the election night coverage. Every lefty outlet, everyone lists her observations as a ray of hope. There she is. They say she's got it right, everybody else is wrong. And I think it just helped reinforce the bad instincts of the left. I don't know if that's good or bad, but do you think that the way I should ask, so do you think Trump should go ahead and sue her? Because he is, I think.
I don't think he should at all. I think first off, I guarantee you that this precedent is going to get used against me and me alone.
Right.
Because
it makes sense.
Okay, essentially her poll missed. Okay, but what we're talking about is it missed by 17 points, which is the biggest miss in modern polling history. And so Trump's accusation was that it was done purposely. And so you have to be able to prove that to a judge. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, but what they are going to be able to do.
I think it's almost. I don't think he can. I'm with you, but I think
what's going to happen is he's going to get discovery on Des Moines Register, who's a Gannett property, and he's going to get discovery on them, and they're the biggest owner of newspapers in America. So there might be some like long game to try and see what it could be. A fishing expedition, it could be an opportunity maybe to just get a quick settlement as retribution. But this woman is washed up now. She's irrelevant. She's not going to go on to do anything, in my opinion, very impactful. And it looks like bully tactics, because I'll tell you, and I did a YouTube video responding to her interview, which I think came out since I was on. I don't think that PBS interview had been out yet last time we talked. and she is just incompetent. Like, that's it. It's not too hard to pull your own state. She did a good job. She had some lucky calls, but she wasn't miraculous. And the mainstream media built her up into this legend that, quite frankly, if you listen to her answers, she's just not, she doesn't have it. Like, even like the responses she gave were like super shallow and kind of not even answering the questions. And so I think the real criminal here is the mainstream media, who is so desperate for a opium fix that they, really put her on a pedestal, and she was doomed to fail. Like that, like she couldn't hold up to it. And they knew that. I think they did that on purpose. And what's kind of sad is she didn't get paid out of it. Like, that's probably the most sad part.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think I watched some of her interviews after the fact, and she was like, okay, I'm not seeing the Einstein here. I'm seeing more of someone, kind of a college professor type who was not really ready for prime time. That was my opinion, but it is what it is.
Or they asked her, like, well, so can you give us like the reason why you think it happened? And she said, well, I've thought about it a lot and I still don't really know what happened. But if I had to say something, I would say it was probably my weighting and my methodology. Like, that's like saying you lost a football game because of your offense and your defense. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this lady just is not good at her job. Like, that's what happened.
Here's what my response would have been if I was her. In 1978, Ron Guidry won the Cy Young Award. Yankee legend, left-hander, great pitcher. He won the Cy Young Award. He had 25 wins that year and an ERA of 1.7. He was flawless, but he still lost 3 games. Nothing is ever going to come out perfectly. As a matter of fact, I believe one of those games was a destruction by the expansion, the 2-year expansion, Toronto Blue Jays. You're going to lose one. Now, again, like I said, maybe she should have checked that and said, this is probably something we should do over again and not release. On the other hand, you're going to miss 1 or 2 of these things, no matter how great you are.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
No,
so we got it.
That she has, if you talk to it, she has, looking at the interview, a very unsophisticated political context. Like, she just doesn't really, she wasn't picking up like the trends that were happening in the Trump administration. And if you look at this entire last 8 years as a continuation of this Democrat-Republican cycle, you're going to miss, like, MAGA is something totally new and different.
No, it's good. And I appreciate you being here to help sort this through, Mark, because I think people on our side just want to know the truth. I know that it's been, it's like, well, no, I think everybody appreciates your honesty and the distinction between the trends that people want to see versus what I guess you would call confirmation bias versus what the trends really are. So we appreciate you being here. I'll continue to watch your stuff. It's been a whole hour. Where'd the time go? Man, oh man. But Mark, on that point, before we let you go, I would like to have you come back and talk more about kind of where this all goes with Ann and company. By the way, just on a personal note, I still believe this is what I would have said when I was asked that question that Ann got asked. I would have said, well, I believe that algebra and calculus is a fraud perpetrated on us by the ancient Egyptians. They're not real. Just say
patriarchy.
It's not real.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. It's racist. It's all racist in the patriarchy.
It's racist. There you go. So anyway, we got to go. It's been another great show. Mark Mitchell of the Rasmussen Reports. Check him out. I'm serious. You got to go watch his stuff. I watch his stuff. Thanks. I smoke cigars. So you don't have to smoke cigars and watch his stuff. I do that, but you don't have to. Just watch his stuff.
Yeah, I just sound like I smoke cigars. That's what that's my problem.
Yeah,
but we're actually we're going to start going live.
Well, I hope you have a great New Year.
Nice
week. Yeah. So
sounds good. Good luck.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Well, I'll be on the lookout for that. I'll be looking out for that. So that's great.
So shall we.
Happy New Year, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Happy New Year. All right.
All right. So Chris, we got